You can look at like, how can I optimize this? And then you bring in a solution to say, okay, now how can I automate this? That's one of the core issues, ways people view technology. It's just something that it's a black box. If you bring it in, it suddenly just works, right? It's the people that have to make it work. Technology is just a tool. Automation is just a tool. AI is just a tool. It's that culture that has to change inside the organization of how are we going to implement this new technology as a tool inside our organization, and how are we going to make that change our culture, the way that we work around here. And that takes leadership and buy-in from the entire organization.
Today's episode is brought to you by one of our show partners, UpFrog.
UpFrog is the OG when it comes to pricing transparency online. They find system replacement leads through paid ads and have developed an entire system to drive those hard-to-find system replacement opportunities, nurture the leads, and book them into sold systems before your team arrives to help you grow your business.
Hey, I'm Krista with MarketStorm, and we work with home service companies across the country. Quick question. If another HVAC or plumbing company in your area starts influencing homeowners before they ever hit Google, who gets the first call? By the time someone searches plumber near me, they've already been researching the problem. We use AI to detect those early intent signals and put your brand in front of them. So when they do search, your name already feels familiar. Visit marketstorm.ai or text us at 213-575-5448.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. You're listening to or watching the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tersh Blissett, and we actually don't have Josh with us today on today's episode, but I am so excited to be able to ask, and I'm not going to be interrupted by Josh, so this is going to be real nice, calm conversation. We have Nathan Whittacre on the show with us today, and we're going to talk we're going to talk technology, a little bit of IT. Let's be honest, it can go anywhere. But we're gonna start off with some technology type things. With that being said, could you give a little bit about your background and how you got into doing this in 1995? I mean, you must have been 3 or 4 years old then.
It feels like it. So, well, thanks for having me on, Tersh. And
yeah, absolutely.
And a little bit about me. I've always been a computer nerd. We got our first computer as a family in 1982. It was an Atari 800 XL. My brother and I loved playing on it and learning about technology. We decided to start the business in 1995 in my brother's garage while we were both in college. We just built computers for families and friends. We had a couple of business clients we were working with and helping them with their computers. But it was basically, started out to put us through school, and eventually got my bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science. The company's grown quite a bit since then. We have about 75 employees across 5 states. And my focus now is very different. I'm running and leading a company, leading strategy, helping other businesses implement technology strategies inside their businesses. And I often say I didn't learn this in computer science school. So I definitely learned a lot after going to school about how to really implement technology correctly inside of businesses and really making businesses work well through these technology solutions.
So with that being said, obviously a softball question, but I really would be amiss if I didn't ask, how have things changed since 95 to 2025? Wow.
1995 was when Windows 95 came out.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, so when I started, it was Microsoft DOS, and then Windows 3.1 was kind of becoming popular.
Wow,
And
I
then
remember that.
Windows 95 came out, and it was, kind of the start of the internet. More and more people were getting connected on the internet. There's this whole controversy, with Internet Explorer was, integrated with Windows 98 and things. I mean, it's hard to say what has not changed. It's like everything has changed.
I know one thing is good though. We don't have those discs that come in the mail with the AOL. It's like
I'm still using my 10 million free hours of all the discs that I got.
That's hilarious.
I laugh.
I was like, man, I'm rich. I got all these discs that are just coming in the mail.
No, yeah, I mean, if you even get a computer today with a CD drive, you can't even find them.
I was about to say, I don't even think I have one. I have 3 servers here, and none of them have CD-ROMs on them.
I mean, I just, in our personal lives, my son, who's a teenager, wants to watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe in order, chronological order, and so we've been going through that. And I just, after we got done watching the Hulk the other night, I sat there and like, what, even in the last 10 years, being able to just go onto your TV and click, I'd like to stream this movie, and it's instantly
Crazy.
available. I mean, I worked at one of my summer jobs. I worked at Blockbuster as a teenager. As one of my first
Just
summer jobs.
Rewind.
Yeah, VHS tapes, and man, it's just
Yeah.
like I'm sure we're sending people on some nostalgia lanes, but it's like technology has accelerated so fast, and it continues to accelerate and change all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's transition into, I know that you give a lot of talks and have conversations on like what people are doing with technology, and talk a lot about leadership, but what are some things that like your CEO or not even CEO, just anyone in the company is doing that's wrong with technology that they should, like, I don't know, improve? Because not out of, intentional neglect or even, malicious or intent or anything like that. But what would you say, or do you have any ideas?
It's maybe not a specific problem, but it's an overarching thing. There's a lot of solutions out there and a lot of different technologies available. And I see one of the problems that, especially business owners and leaders of organizations, they listen to a speech at a conference, and they bring back a technology and they say, well, let's find a problem to implement, this new technology to do. And it's backwards, right? So I think that's really what organizations need to do is look at different ways that they're operating and say, how can I improve this operation? And then go out and search for technology to help them do that. And so I see a lot of technology initiatives fail inside organizations. And this was, from 1995 or to 2025, it doesn't matter, you're buying a solution and you try to implement it, and it doesn't solve a problem. It makes matters worse. It makes people's jobs harder or more difficult, or whatever it may be. And then it never really solidifies inside the organization. You end up throwing it out, or you do things manually or different ways. And so I think the core issue that companies need to figure out is what can they solve incrementally inside their businesses, and then find a solution to produce that solution.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I've been guilty of that myself. I go to a thing and it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, this new technology out there. I'm like, all right, bet, let's do it. And then you bring it back to the company. And first off, you go to an expo or you go to a trade show, and then the company, like the team, they know as soon as you come back, here comes Tersh. He's going to have some crazy ideas going on. If we can just pacify him for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he'll forget all about these new nangled technologies. Well, you sign up for a program that, like you said, didn't actually solve a problem. And then you sign like a 1-year contract with it. And then you're like looking at your P&L and your balance sheet, and you're like, hey, this expense here on this sheet, what's our ROI on that? Oh, we haven't used that in 3 months. Like, what?
What
Why
the
not?
heck? Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, it didn't solve problems, it created problems. Well, not according to the speech that was on stage. That was going to solve all of our problems, and that was the silver bullet for the company. And in reality, it's like, it goes back to when Josh and I are building out automations for people, and whether we're building an automation or teaching you how to build an automation, one of the things that we emphasize ahead of time, like just beat a dead horse on this one, is you must optimize before you automate, before you delegate. Because if you automate or you implement a product with poor processes, then you're going to compound effect the poor optimization of your process. So you're just going to make matters way worse if you're trying to throw a software at a problem, or the wrong software. I've been guilty of this, where it's like, hey, this software has one of the features that might solve this pain point over here, but in reality, it created 3 other workflow processes that caused that pain point to just magnify. If I would have just spent the time to optimize the process and figure out the pain points and deal with those, and then maybe bring the software in here, I feel like it would go a lot smoother. And in my experience, that's how it happens. But if I don't optimize first, then it turns real bad real fast.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I, I I learned something. I don't know. It's been 20 years ago now. I went to a conference that they taught us how to do lean analysis of businesses. I really like the process because you sit down and analyze a business procedure or process on sticky notes, and you define every step along the way and the time that it takes to do every step. And sometimes you identify one processes that may be historical. You're producing, a report that nobody reads, or
Yeah.
you're saving some files that nobody cares about. And then you can look at, like, how can I optimize this? And then you bring in a solution to say, okay, now how can I automate this? So I like that a lot. The optimization and automation is really the goal of any technology. And it's funny, like, over the years I've helped companies, and even internally implement new systems. And the 3 letters that scare any business owner are ERP. If you've ever tried to implement like an ERP system
Mhm.
inside your company, that it's always a great idea in the beginning, and then it leads to so many problems in the end if you haven't identified the problem that you're trying to solve, and take it incrementally along the way, to make it work across the organization. So it is tough. You got to be able to do it efficiently by paper before you can really
It's
make it
true.
automated.
Yeah, that is very true. What would you say to somebody who is coming into a business that, like yourself, you go into a company? I'm sure during the onboarding process, they're like, "Hey, I need this problem solved, this problem solved. Like, these are my issues over here, and I think IT should take care of all of it." How do you, for one, come into the company and solve problems in a perceived proper time manner? Because we could say, hey, this process needs to be optimized over here, and then wait 6 months, and then it's like, oh man, I don't know if this is worth the investment, because things aren't moving as fast as I kind of imagined it would be. How do you figure out what needs to be optimized? Like, say a GM's coming into a company, a service manager, and they're like, here's the garbage, figure it out.
That's one of the core issues of ways people view technology. Is it's just something that it's a black box. If you bring it in, it suddenly just works, right?
Yeah.
But it's, in the end, it's the people that have to make it work. Technology is just a tool, automation is just a tool, AI is just a tool. In the end, it's people that make it work. And it's that culture that has to change inside the organization of how are we going to implement this new technology as a tool, inside our organization, and how are we going to make that change our culture, the way that we work around here. And that takes leadership and buy-in from the entire organization. And I really like, when I'm dealing with companies on major, transformational changes, having a champion inside the organization that really understands and leads the new process and really advocates for it across the whole organization. And that could be the CEO, it could be the GM, it could be one of the frontline employees.
Mhm.
But somebody has to say, this is the best thing for the organization. I'm going to take the bull by the horns and make it work across the organization, work with all the partners and stakeholders to make it work and make it stick. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that the exact opposite of what I was saying earlier about, like, let's give them 2 weeks and then it'll go away. Like, you need somebody that's gonna just keep going at it until it's, at least 90 days, so a habit can be formed. Are you doing, like, do you find that? And it's funny, I am excited to talk with you more, because a lot of people assume that we're just going to talk to IT, but we're going to talk leadership, and I love the fact that you talk a lot about leadership. But are you seeing that it's the same person that champions all of the implementation, or do you like want to champion? Do you want to try and find a champion for each department, or like, does it matter to the size of the company? What's your take on that?
I think it depends on, the implementation, how broad is it across the organization? So again, if you're trying to implement a ERP system, a new, enterprise resource planning system that it touches everybody's work, then somebody high up in the organization, your finance manager or your CEO maybe needs to be the champion. But if it's something like, that really is just affecting sales and marketing, you need somebody in your sales and marketing department that's, focused on that and can make it work. But really believes in the solution, believes that it will solve the problem, and is going to take as Jocko Willink would say, extreme ownership to make sure that, it's successful.
Man, it's been years since I read that book. I read it when it first came out. I really need to read it again. And I read it, and then I listened to it, and I got completely different things out of it. Having Jocko actually work through it all. I went to a conference a couple months ago, and he was a speaker there, and I was like,
yeah, that guy's energy is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
He has a new book, The Economy of Leadership, that is really good. I don't know if you've listened to that one. I
have a copy of it, a signed copy of it from that event, but I haven't cracked it's still fresh. I haven't opened it up yet.
Yeah, in the scheme of extreme ownership, he talks a little bit about, some of the mistakes that they made in writing the book, and some of the things that they've learned, as they've been teaching that methodology over the last, 4 or 5 years since the book came out. And, it's, where people can take those things wrong inside their organization, the aggressive, what be aggressive or aggressive first. I can't remember exactly what he says, but that's that could be taken to extremes. And so he talks about that as like, you don't want to take any of these things. You don't want to take extreme to the extreme.
Yeah. But the thing about it is when you listen to the book, though, it's like you're pumped up and you're like, all right, we got this.
I'm
gonna treat the whole company like they're a SEAL Team 6 or something. Dev group, let's go. And then all of a sudden you can, like, obviously different personality types react differently to that type of, let's call, coaching of the organization. And then all of a sudden you're running off some A players on your team because they're like, nope, I'm out. I'm not one for doing push-ups and stuff during our break times.
Yeah, I think he dives into that in dichotomy of leadership. So, well, we went up on a little tangent there, but it's cool.
Yeah. So, like, what type of I guess leadership principles have you found like the most effective whether it's like within your company or other companies that you're helping? And now, when you go into a company, do you explain to them, hey, this is an IT company, but I'm going to look at leadership as well, like how you're leading people and how to help you do that? How does that work?
Our company, we go at it a few different ways. We have, because we're big enough, I can't be involved with every company.
Sure.
So, we have technical account managers that are trained to, speak the same thing, talk about business strategy, implementing technology solutions to meet their business goals. And so, they're meeting, quarterly or monthly or even sometimes weekly with different businesses, depending on their growth stage, on how to make technology work for them. And then, we try to put out information, whether it's through webinars or the podcast that I have. I recently wrote a book that really talks about, things that CEOs need to know so that they can talk to the IT people well enough, because that's one of the scary things I think leaders have is, leader at the top of the organization often has to deal with so many different parts of the organization. They might have gotten into business because they were really good at a trade or a craft, whether, for me, it was technology. I love technology as a complete nerd, but as the organization's grown, I've had to grow as an individual. And that's always one of the scary things is, you mentioned you work with a lot of trade, HVAC people and things. And, you might have gone into it because you were a really good tradesman, but now, you got your accountant coming to you talking about finance. You got your IT person talking to you about automation and
Yep.
cybersecurity and all this stuff. And, you have HR person saying, this guy did this. And, it's like, what? And then there's all these laws you have to abide by and federal
And
reporting and wage standards. And
let you expand from one state to the other. Like, we're at the Georgia-South Carolina line, so then, like, let me go over into South Carolina, and all of a sudden, the laws are completely different,
yeah.
or at least half different.
Well, at least you have easier states. We're in California and
Oh,
Nevada.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
whole different country.
That
I
is.
love California. We love working there, but it is certainly a whole different nature in different states, depending on where you're at. So it's hard, being a leader of an organization, and requires a lot of demand. So we
It
we
does.
try to provide information so you can speak the language and understand what people are talking about, and speak on terms that that can be translated. Because
What
as geeks, we talk a lot of acronyms, and we throw a
Uh-huh.
lot of terminology that makes no sense. The green room, we were talking before about, people's heads explode when you talk about these things, and it's
Yep.
often the
Uh-huh.
case. So
So what led you to say, hey, there's a problem in the communication path between your leadership, your CEOs, and us. So I'm going to take the initiative to ease that gap there, because we know, and maybe your experience is different, but a confused mind says no, typically. Like, that's traditionally this, like, the buzzword or the buzz statement. A confused mind says no. So do you find that with a CEO? I feel like a CEO is going to have a little bit more of, like, the willingness to say, hey, I don't understand that. Can you explain it a little bit better, or something like that? But otherwise, I mean, I feel like there's some CEOs that might come in and be like, I can't look weak. I can't look like I don't know everything.
Mhm.
So let's just roll with it, type thing. Share how you even got to where you're at, and knowing to even put out this information.
yeah, I think the biggest shift for me was 5 or 6 years ago, as we were talking more and more about cybersecurity and things that we need to do to keep companies safe, from ransomware attacks, from social engineering attacks, phishing,
Mhm.
things like that, and saying, what we did 10 years ago no longer works today. And we
Mm.
need to implement new technologies to keep your business safe. And we go in and talk to business leaders, and they would say, kind of like you were saying before, well, I don't see the value in spending 50% more on IT to implement these cybersecurity solutions. I'm not going to do it.
Mhm.
And then, because we were talking about implementing 2FA and
Mhm.
all these acronyms, we were just throwing out acronyms at them, saying, okay,
Was it
this is all the fun stuff we're going to do.
SSO,
Yeah.
whatever? I just had to sign up for that last night, actually.
And so and then they say, well, I don't need it. I'm
Mhm.
good. And then you read in the headlines, this company was hacked, or this small business was attacked. And you find out, and we work with people who say, well, this is preventable. Why
Mhm.
are companies not willing to pay, a few extra dollars for this solution that will keep them safe? And and I realized in that conversation that we were just talking over people's heads, and
Mhm.
we needed to do something different, have a different conversation.
Yeah.
And so we've revamped the way that we do things, and the way that I talk to people is coming up with solutions, to one, allowing them to see problems that they may not see inside their organization, but talking to them on a language about solving those problems. And in the end, business owners want to drive dollars to their bottom line. They want a bigger paycheck, and they want to,
Yeah.
provide bigger paychecks for their employees. And the only way to do that is, by, you know, being more effective in the marketplace, generating more dollars for the organization, and keep the costs down.
Yeah.
So anytime you talk about raising expenses, that's less dollars in their pockets. So the
Mhm.
conversation needs to end up being, this is going to save you money in the end. This is going
And
to
then,
produce more revenue for you, and or keep your profits safe inside your company. And so that's the shift that we had.
so what I hear you saying is that we can't just download the was it John McAfee antivirus and be good?
No,
Just
no. In 1995, you could.
I don't know if I could download any product that he has with
That
his
guy's
name
crazy.
on it. That guy was nuts.
Hello, home service professionals. Do you want to maximize your marketing budget? Then you need to be using call tracking from CallRail. Let's say you noticed a spike in new leads this month. To find out what's driving them, you just log into your CallRail dashboard. Is my new Facebook ad outperforming my other ads? Or is paid search knocking it out of the park? Or maybe it's time to retire those newspaper ads. Since CallRail assigns a unique phone number to each of my marketing efforts, I know where my best leads come from and which efforts to scrap. CallRail shows you your most cost-effective marketing channels so you can get back to business. Go to callrail.com/SBMpod and try it for free.
Today's episode is powered by Cirrus Systems.
Cirrus is all about removing the clutter and unnecessary touch points to run your home service business profitably.
They use AI dispatching to get the right tech to the right call automatically and job time efficiency to ensure your entire team runs like a profit-generating machine.
Get a tech upgrade for your business at get.sarah.tech/service-business-mastery.
At what size would you say a company like really needs to start looking into IT? Because like our audience that's listening to this, they really could range from one guy in a truck doing, $500,000 to $1 million in total revenue a year to, $150 million a year company.
So there's different things that different size organizations need to implement. And the cool thing is today, you can do a lot yourself and be self-served. For 5 or less employees, you really don't need an outside IT firm. You can really take care of a lot of the stuff yourself, a little bit of research, a little bit of time, and you can implement the right things. And there's, just some basic technologies and basic tools that can be implemented by anybody to really ensure safety. One of them I mentioned is 2FA or two-factor authentication, ensuring that all your accounts are secure by using 2FA. It is annoying as hell, nobody likes it, right?
Especially if you have
But
a VA that lives in Philippines or Eastern Europe, and then they're like, hey, Tersh, or get on Slack, and they're like, hey, Tersh, I need the code. And then it's like, here's the code. And then like 10 minutes later, they see the notification. They're like, too late, expired. Let's send another one up. We're like, oh gosh.
But I mean, that's the number one security thing.
Yeah.
Right now is, good passwords, using a password manager for your passwords, and then two-factor authentication. But you don't need us to do that. Anybody can download LastPass and turn on 2FA. I mean, most companies are now requiring it for bank accounts and, social media accounts, email accounts, things like that. Cloud is awesome. I mean, you mentioned Slack or, if you're a Microsoft, shop, using
Teams.
Microsoft 365 and Teams. I mean, these are tools that used to take a lot of technology to implement and work. And now they're, it's an app that you sign up for and it's working tomorrow. So, for small organizations, call it under 5 people, under 10 people, you can do a lot of this yourself with not a lot of time. But once you start getting up into about 10 people, one, you shouldn't, as an owner, shouldn't be focusing on it. You need to focus on
deal with that.
The most important thing inside your organization is leadership and setting the strategy for your company. And, the complexity increases. You might, want to incorporate a line of business application that, automates billing and automates service and ticketing and things like that. And there might be some compliance that comes into it. You need to do state reporting for, labor standards or, I don't know.
Would you work? I mean, that sounds a little bit like an HR situation. Would you work with an HR company like to get that stuff like straightened out?
Yeah, you can definitely outsource that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But again, it increases the complexity of your organization. And that's when really bringing in an outside firm to help you, piece all those things together to make it work. And then, using maybe some automation to improve service like you guys do. And that's when you really need to start looking outside of what your capabilities are for experts that can help you implement it. So I'd say, 10 is kind of the threshold that we find.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I could see that totally. You mentioned LastPass. Is that your favorite password keeper?
It's the one I've used for a long time. There's others
Yeah.
out there. LastPass, 1Password is another good one. It's, more enterprise focused. What you don't want to do is allow your web browser to save your passwords. It's the most insecure thing you can do.
Now, if you have Google, like Google Chrome that saves it, you need to turn that off and delete them all out of there. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Okay, so if you're using LastPass and Google Chrome, do away with Google Chrome stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You can
Good
let
point.
the Google Chrome remember your bookmarks and websites you're visited. Keep that across all your programs, but don't let it save your passwords because that is easiest thing to crack on a computer.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah, I could see that totally. The PIN number is just too easy to figure out.
Mhm.
I mean, especially if the one thing, man, LastPass sometimes just fills in the spots completely wrong, and then it's got the thing underneath it, and I'm like, I can't see the drop down. I can't click the drop. So sometimes I want to punch LastPass, but
Yeah.
it's
I think
definitely good though.
it's a good system.
Yeah.
I think LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden is one that's coming up. I haven't used Bitwarden. We use and recommend 1Password as an organization. But I've just been using LastPass
What
for a long
so
time.
but what for small to medium business, what security risks do you see like that's just blatantly obvious that like, hey, other than the Google Chrome password keeper thing?
Business email compromise is still the number one on the FBI's list over and over
Oh
again.
yeah.
So, most attacks are coming in to small businesses through email.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunately your employees are the ones clicking on the bad links or the owners.
And then putting their password in,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh man, on a daily basis, I mean, not even daily basis, probably an hourly basis, I feel like I get an email telling me that my Facebook ad account is in violation of something, 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 and click this link to reset your password. Okay, right. And it's like, I don't
Yeah.
understand personally, and I'm not on your side of the world, so I'm not like, I don't understand why, but you would think that they could figure some of that nonsense out. The spam, the ridiculous amount of just phishing. It's just
Yeah.
crazy how many phishing reports that I see in a day.
I recommend having a third party email protection system that's AI driven because a lot of these new emails you're getting are produced by AI and they're much
Yeah.
better and they're getting past older filters. We highly recommend whether you're using, Google Apps or Microsoft 365 of having a third party security system that's monitoring and fixing your emails. And I mean, I've had my same email box for 30 years and the amount of spam and phishing that I get on it, because
Hmm.
I'm on every list out
Hmm.
there that could
Yeah.
be, is incredible. But it's reduced. It's almost perfect now that I
Really.
don't get false positives or false negatives.
What would you recommend using?
So we use one called Avanon. It's a little difficult to set up, and this is
Okay.
where you get into the probably need a consultant to help you out with
Uh-huh.
it. There's others out there. Barracuda. There's Sentinel One. There's ones that are really good too, and it's a combination of different tools and things you have to implement. But again, this is where it might be more difficult for an owner to implement these technologies because they're a bit complex to get
Yeah. Yeah.
implemented.
How have you seen the AI? We'll call it AI. I mean, we know it's like machine learning and that stuff. How have you seen that affect the IT world?
So on the good side, it definitely improves automation. There's just a lot of new
Mhm.
technologies coming out that it really our vendors are implementing. There's just a lot of people out there that are implementing some really cool things inside their products. Integrating the generative AI. As we were talking about before the show,
Mhm.
implementing Chat GPT technologies to produce better content, better workflows, things like that. On the cybersecurity side, though, we're seeing that the hackers are doing the same thing, and they're becoming better at phishing. Because you can send AI out to, scour a CEO's,
It's crazy.
Facebook profile, LinkedIn
And it's like
profile, and
that.
immediate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're sending you emails that are very targeted at you. It might be a business contact that you know about and have, and it's legitimately written like they would write it, with information that's garnered, off of, history that you posted online.
Oh,
And
I need to
so,
tell you about this one that happened yesterday. Josh actually, and the reason I'm sharing this is because he made a post on Facebook about it, so I know that he's okay with sharing it. But someone actually went and put a proposal, like it looked like a proposal from Relentless Digital, which is Josh's digital marketing agency, and the reply to email was literally Josh's email address, and then it said at mail.com, like mail.com, at the end of the reply. And like everybody that I talked to, I literally 3 people texted me almost instantly because they didn't have Josh's cell phone number, and then others messaged him on Facebook. And so, like, as soon as I sent him a text message, he was like, I know, I'm already getting bombarded by it. I don't know what it is, but it was sent out to a ton of people that weren't even his clients. But they knew him because of social media, I guess. And it looked very, very real. And so, like, he's having to deal with all of that now. Like, that's one of the things he's doing right now, is figuring out how the hack happened, where stuff's coming from, and it's crazy. Like you said, the AI side of component side of things made it look very, very real. And it was very personalized to each person too. So, like, I got 3 different messages, like screenshots sent to my text message, and all 3 of them were different, and it was personalized for each person. And I was like, wow,
yeah, an AI could generate that like that,
that's
and
crazy.
that is what, I mean, it would take a programmer a long time to write a system to do that and to gather that information. AI can learn it and spit it out in seconds. And
How do we combat that though?
I think you got to use AI to combat the AI. You have to use these AI detection tools to, detect, things.
Is that what
that
these
type
other
of
the programs you're mentioning, do they detect AI?
They do. Yeah,
What
they
if
do.
like a marketer is using Chat GPT to come up with content, and they're just sending it out that way? Is it
Well,
detected
it
to
depends
get
on if
like,
it's malicious or not. But
oh
yeah,
yeah,
it could
like
be.
not malicious, just
Yeah.
like straight taking like our podcast episode, throwing it into Cast Magic, and then coming up with a weekly email announcing our podcast episode,
Mhm.
but nothing malicious at all in there. Would it detect any
It
of
would
that stuff?
detect it as promotions, just like it
Oh,
would
okay.
regularly.
Got
Yeah, it
you.
would detect it as a not malicious spam, but it's still spam. I mean, that's what
Technically.
us as marketers do. We spam, and it's the funny thing is we use the same tools to, these AI tools, like ListKit or some of these other tools, to get names of email addresses, verify them, warm them up so that we can send emails. I mean, hackers could do the same thing to get access to your accountant to wire funds. They'll warm it up, send emails, like start a communication. And
Really? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, they'll do the
that
same
makes
stuff.
sense. Yeah, that's that's crazy, man. The amount of time as a business owner that you need to put up these safeguards, and you're already putting out like legitimate fires in your business. We're all guilty of that. Like, we're firefighters and stuff. And then next thing you know, you're being bombarded with IT things that you're like, it's just an email. Like, I don't need to call the IT guy about this. Like, I don't need to notify Nathan that we did this stupid thing over here and all this other stuff. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, why is our checking accounts overdrawn? Like,
Mhm.
oopsie.
Yeah, who wired $100,000 out of the account? And,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I received this invoice and you told me to pay it. I didn't do that.
Nope. Well,
And we see that, and that,
Says it.
that's what pisses me off. That's, again, it just
Uh-huh.
it makes me mad.
Yeah.
Like, just I mean, there's just a certain portion of our population that's just evil. I mean, they just do bad things.
I mean,
And
what is it? I mean, other than stealing your money, like, is that the only intent. I feel like if these people would put forth as much effort in being malicious as they would, like if they honest work effort, they would be just as successful. I believe, anyways.
Probably. I mean, the
It's like they just
average,
have fun doing it.
yeah, I think some of them do. It is lucrative. I mean, the
Yeah,
average hacker can make, $80,000 a month,
yeah,
doing
that's
these type
good.
of,
Yeah.
and just using scripts and tools that we're talking about here to attack us. So, it's very lucrative. It's a lucrative business, and that's
Have you
and a
seen?
lot of it, they're not U.S. based. I mean, these are
Yeah.
foreign actors, and then to larger companies, these large attacks are government sponsored, because
Oh, yeah.
you have
Getting
you know
secrets, trade secrets, and things.
yeah, and or it's just a lot of money that they can get, and they just want to punish our country. We have a lot of enemies, and
Making
globally.
more each day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, have you seen? Oh, I can't think of his name. There's this kind of pretty popular white hat hacker. He's white hat now, on like TikTok and social media, where he's kind of like shares ways that he's taken people's information. Like I watched one video of his, and he was like, "Never log into the airport Wi-Fi."
Mm.
Because like I can literally have this device and I spoof the internet like it's the airport's Wi-Fi, or I can spoof your Wi-Fi at your house, and then all of a sudden you think you got logged out, so you're logging back into your what you perceive as your Wi-Fi, and you're actually logging into my program, my hardware, and now I have all the information off of your phone instantly.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. The one that I like listening is his name's Kevin Mitnick, and he's been interviewed a lot. He's since passed away, unfortunately. He died a couple of years ago, but
Oh
he was
no.
one of the original social engineering guys.
Mm.
He social engineered his way into big companies like
Yeah.
IBM and
Yeah.
Motorola. These big enterprises. He used these social engineering techniques to get in and access to trade secrets, mostly because he just wanted to hack cell phone companies and get free phone service and internet
I
service.
mean,
But
I pay like $700 a month for Verizon. Like, I would be 100% okay if somebody taught me how to hack into Verizon, so I didn't
I
have to
did
pay
hear
that
that. I
much.
don't want to hear that.
We didn't live stream that one. FBI, just ignore that one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
um,
totally kidding. But it's this guy here actually he has a product that's like not LifeLock, but like it's a monitoring service also that
mm,
they kind of created because of even taking images. I didn't even know this, but you take and like reverse image search yourself, and then all of a sudden there's images and information about you on the dark web, and then it's like I get notifications all the time. My AOL account that I was making fun of the AOL disk, but I
mhm.
still have an AOL account, and I don't check it or anything for I haven't for years, but like my college tuition things were on it. So every now and then I'll get like some random notification from like Georgia Tech or from Arizona University. And then it's like, that's the only reason why I really keep it. But I get notified all the time that it's been exposed to the dark web.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, what do I do about that? Like, I don't care about anything to do with that account, but I know there's got to be some sort of sensitive data on it, especially since I've had it since probably I was 15 years old or something.
There's been so many data leaks out there, from government to private enterprise, that your information is available on the dark web for people to access. You just have
Oh,
to go with the assumption that your name, birth date, social security number, maybe even bank account information is available for somebody to buy on the dark web. And so you have to do everything possible to protect that. And luckily, I think the banks do a pretty good job about generally protecting accounts. You should have something that's monitoring your social security number, your credit, if somebody's trying to file credit against you, the LifeLock or Experian
mm-hmm.
or something to protect your your information. And from a business standpoint, just having, alerts set up on bank accounts, the financial
What
fraud is
about
really what hackers want to do. So having
what
those alerts set up to have a notification.
what about so like you mentioned Experian and stuff for our personal credit. What about business credit? Like, how do you protect that?
Um, Dun and Bradstreet, I think
Okay,
is,
DMB.
get it set up a DMB account and monitor that
Is that
for,
really the only way to do that? I
I
mean,
think so.
yeah, DMB sometimes is a pain for
I
smaller
don't
companies.
disagree. Don't disagree.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page there. Because I've had some run-ins with DMB, but then it's like whatever. It's almost like Yelp at this point, like
Mhm.
a necessary evil. But yeah.
I
Uh,
think, the other thing you want to maintain as a business is your general reputation online, making, sure that you own your Google My Business accounts, own your social media profiles, and you're monitoring those.
do you
And
recommend setting up like a I can't remember the name of it. It's like a Google alert. I think that might be what they call it now, the Google alert, where it's like keyword alerts. So like I've
kind of
set up a
business
couple.
name.
Yeah, I've set up a couple of them like for company names, and then for me, and I set up one for like Josh. The problem with Josh though is there's a famous baseball player named Josh Crouch. So like I'll get notifications on a regular basis where it's like Josh Crouch baseball did this and did that, and I'm like, dang, Josh, you famous. Like you're all over the place. It's easier for me, even though I have a weird name. Uh, it, but would you recommend people doing that or something similar to that for their company as well?
I think that's more advanced for sure, but
Oh, okay. Is it? I don't
yeah,
know.
I think there's certain things that really take care of the 80% of issues, the 2FA, email security, employee training. We haven't mentioned that yet,
Yeah.
but really, training your employees. I talk about like two-factor across your organization, especially on the financial side. So if you have an accounts payable person or somebody is at your organization that's handling your finance at all,
Uh-huh.
don't if they're ever going to ACH or wire or pay something, they should not confirm that via email or Teams message or Slack message. They need to pick up the phone and verify that that's what they should be doing,
Like the
to
person,
both vendors and to you.
like you're
Um,
saying, like if it's the accountant or the bookkeeper, instead of taking the word of the CEO via email, they should pick up the phone and say, "Hey, just confirming this
did
is
you do this?
accurate." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Same thing, we see like direct deposit fraud was a big thing not too recently. I think it's still there, but I don't see as much of it. But you'll get an email from an employee that say, "Hey, I just changed my bank account. Here's my new routing information for my direct deposit." And if your HR person just puts that in, now
That's a
the
really
payroll's
good
going.
point. We've had that. We did that a couple of times, and we had one employee who changed bank accounts like 4 times, and I was like, first off, it was a red flag to me. Like, why is this going on? But then, like, I definitely, because of like, I would have just felt toxic, like had some toxic feeling going on initially. So like I was on a Zoom call with her and I was like, "Hey, are you sure you want to change this over?" And she's like, "Yes, absolutely." I was, okay, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, you're right. It's very easy to get that email from an employee and be like, "All right, like
Let me
I'm
just
so
take care of it
busy
real quick.
I'm so busy doing this stuff. I'll just knock this out real fast and boom, ADP this." And then now next thing you know, they get it like Friday. They're like, "Hey, why didn't I get a check deposit this week?" And I'm like, I show you do right here on ADP. And you log into ADP and they show that they do. And they're like, "Wait a minute, my checking account's not right." You're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
and
crap."
what hackers do is through social engineering is they're trying to make you take quick actions. There's always a sense of urgency. They know you're busy, and they're gonna do something in a way that seems legit, and they're gonna make you take quick action on it. Hey, payroll's coming up on Friday, and I just set up
Yeah.
a new account. I've closed my other one down, so can you update this? And it looks legit. And so I think it just takes a moment to slow down, to take actions, and training your team members, your employees, to just slow down when there's critical points in their
Yeah.
work. whether it's, financial or, making big decisions. Just take a moment to slow down and ensure that that decision is right. Will save you a lot of heartache down the road. And I think that's a good advice, not just in, technology, but in all aspects of the business.
Very true. I agree 100%. Do you cover any of this stuff in your book?
We do. Yeah. A lot of it is in the book. Yeah.
And what's the name of the book again?
The CEO's Digital Survival Guide. And
Like a practical handbook to navigate the future.
The future. That's it.
Yeah, I nailed it. I got dyslexia, but I still did it. I challenged myself trying to read things on stage is the absolute worst. Like I'll get on stage and do a presentation and try and read something, and Josh is like just looking at me, waiting for me to fail instead of helping me. Anyways, that's cool. So, really quick though, I want to circle back to the email, just in case we have a listener that's like, I'm not familiar with those programs. For just a smaller company, is the Gmail security aspect of things not good enough? You would recommend something else, like not necessarily like a was it? I put Avidon.
Yeah. So when you're buying, let's say Google Apps or Microsoft 365 out of the box, you sign up for it, you set it up, it's out of the box. Those companies are more interested in protecting their infrastructure than protecting your data. They do sell additional products that are in advanced security. So Microsoft has their Defender add-on. I think it's like $2 per account a month. It's not that much.
That's cheap. Is it actually going to provide protection?
It provides. I don't think it's as good as a third-party protection, but it's much better than the one out of the box. So,
Gotcha.
I would say minimally, spend the extra couple of dollars per mailbox to have that additional protection, that advanced security.
Whenever we put something like that in place, should we expect the spams to just go away, or
not 100%?
Okay,
not 100%.
Like, are they still going to go into a spam folder?
Generally, yes.
Okay, so they are going to still go to spam folder. So you still going to have to check your spam folder. Because I'll say I have one account, one of my Gmail accounts. I feel like on a daily basis, it's at 100 emails in the spam folder before I even get started. And I want to just go in there and like click apply all and delete. But then, there's that one random email that's not supposed to be there that you need to go check and make sure like you pull it out of there. That sucks.
And then you got to train the system, if you mark it as not junk, then it will learn next time. It isn't perfect. I mean, there's false positives, false negatives all the time, but it's certainly a lot better. One note about, any of these systems that are free, Outlook.com or Gmail.com, if you're using that for your business, if you're getting anything free from a large company, they're making money off of you one way or another.
Yeah,
so,
you are the product.
You are the product. Exactly. And so it's really important, I think, for businesses to grow a little bit and just spend the extra few dollars on buying these mailbox accounts or whatever it may be. Any software that's free. A lot of software companies offer freemium, which is cool. You can try it out and then, you start paying, a month down the road or something like that. I think that's a great method. But if you're getting it permanently for free, you're the product.
Yeah, 100%.
Pay a little
like
bit.
People like on Facebook and like even like social media platforms, and they're like, oh yeah, this is safe or whatever. And I'm like, no, like if just like you said, if it didn't cost you anything, then you are the product. They're selling your data somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is what it is. Like so they got to make money somehow. It's not free. AOL, what is not AOL? AWS servers, and that's what it is. AWS, right?
Amazon Web Services.
Yeah. I was having a brain fart. Yeah, like that stuff's not free. It's not even cheap. So for them to store data online in the clouds, like they have to pay for it somehow. So they're selling some sort of product.
Yeah, and the companies are sharing information back and forth, and I mean it's great for marketers. You know the desires and interests and everything. You can hyper target your ideal client.
It's scary how much data you can get as a marketer or a hacker or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if you having good intentions or having malicious intent, it's kind of scary how much information you can get.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I really appreciate it. I can't believe it's been as long as it has. I could still ask you a gazillion more questions. For those who are listening, can you share again the name of your podcast, where to find it, your book, and where they could learn more about you?
Sure. So Nathan Whittacre, it's my name. It's spelled a little bit differently. Find me best on LinkedIn. So linkedin.com, search me up. The company is Stimulus Technologies. We have a podcast, Stimulus Tech Talk. We produce generally weekly. Unless we're on holiday or something.
Yeah.
But you can find us on all the platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the big platforms. And we talk about, all things technology, AI, cybersecurity, business processes on that. And we have different guests and I speak a bit. And then the book is available on Amazon, but I'd like to make a special offer. If anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and then just send me a note after connecting with me that you saw me on this podcast, I'd be happy to send you a copy of the book. An actual hardback copy, not just a digital one.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's special. Y'all just feel special. Y'all hanging out in, looks like the 55th minute here. So if you hung out to then, got it. No, I'm just kidding. I'll make sure we make this available in the show notes. And Nathan, I really appreciate you hanging out with me and answering some questions that are probably remedial for you, but it's fun to bring them to light and just have that conversation again. We don't think about as a business owner, because like I said earlier, we're putting out fires all day long. So just slow down and to help keep yourself safe, keep your company safe and stuff like that. So again, I appreciate it.
It's been fun. Lots of great questions and good discussion.
I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions at all, don't hesitate. I will put Nathan's information in the show notes. And as always, you can reach out to myself or Josh. And I hope you have a wonderful and safe week until we go again next time. We'll see you later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.